So we're back again. This will be our fourth turn. And I'm coming over here, and again, it's a half hour between each turn. Now I find that if it goes a little bit longer, it's okay. If it goes a little bit shorter by 2 or 3, 5 minutes, you're all right, just depending on your schedule. And I'm going to spread this out. Now this is definitely thicker, so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using my fist, my knuckles, and I'm going to be spreading this out. Again, I'm spreading it out, and the purpose again is to get the air out of the fermentation that's happening so you don't have holes in your bread. And I'm working it just like that. You'll notice that on your edges, that's where you'll see the fermentation really happening. So I have flattened this thing out now. And again, my first turn is right there. And I'm pushing it down, and now I'm going to use my fist. Now, one of the things that you'll see is I'm not just using my arms. I'm literally standing on my toes right now, and I'm just putting my weight, my body, on my fist. So I'm going to turn it, because you can see it's thicker right here. I need to spread that out, and I'm going to put it across. So I'm going to do my second turn, and you notice I'm not using my fingers to poke it down because it's actually too thick. It really doesn't do a whole lot of good. And I'm just pushing it down, and I'm working it. Now, it goes relatively fast as you're doing this, so I figure it's about, the whole process takes about 10 to 15 minutes per loaf. Maybe not that long, because we're doing 2 loaves at a time. So it's probably on average takes 10 minutes of actual work that you're doing to make a loaf. Okay, and then I'm going to bring it over. You can see how thick that is. So now I'm going to work it in. And again, the purpose of doing this is to work the starter into all the flour. It's a little bit wet. And you can probably see there's not, the seam isn't really noticeable. And then I'm going to fold it over, and this is my last one. Again, you can see that the fermentation is happening, and it's getting thicker. So now what I'm going to do is just the last flattening that out. This particular, the last fold, typically takes a little longer because you're really trying to get that, all the layers to mash together. As you can see, the seams are, the layers are blending together. And that's really probably pretty good. So again, I'm going to fold it over, kind of put it into a ball like that. And I'm going to put it back in the bowl. Now, at this point, you want to give this approximately 2 to 2.5, maybe 3 hours. You want it to increase in size anywhere from 30 to 50%. And so I'm going to probably let this rise for about 2.5 hours, and we'll come back and we'll see what it's like. Cover it, and then we'll get started again in about 2.5 hours. Now, this is what I like about the clouche, or the couche. Some people call it clouche. I call it couche. C-O-U-C-H. There's my cleanup, and I'll set this aside. We're going to use this again when we break it up into separate loaves. So, in a few minutes. Well, it's been a couple of hours, maybe 2.5 hours about right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the dough, and we're going to form it into loaves. Now, one of the things that what I have found is using these baton baskets, which helps shape the loaves. You can buy a 9-inch or you can buy a 10-inch. Now, I've tried a 9-inch, and the problem with 9-inch is that quite often your loaf, as it's proofing, will go outside of it. So I would recommend a 10-inch. Now, I get asked, what do we use this for? And it really is a cover when you are proofing the loaf, and proofing just gives it the time for the yeast, the sourdough, the starter to continue to expand. So what you want to do the first time you're using a baton, I guess is what it is. What you want to do is you want to spray it with a light coating of PAM or some type of a spray oil. And this is going to help keep the flour in the cracks, and makes it so much easier when you go later to take your bread out. So all you want to do is shake it around, and as you can see, all I'm doing is I'm coating it with flour. And so that's pretty well. I'm going to put the other in here. Now, what I recommend is in between, when you get done baking, forming these, the flour cakes up on the side, and what you want to do is you want to knock that off in the sink so it just doesn't glom onto it. So we pretty well have that. Got that ready, and so what we're going to do is open up our couche again, and we are going to form our form the loaves. So again, now what you want to do is put your hands over the couche and see if there's any clumps or stuff of dried flour that's in clumps, because that will get into your onto your loaf. Now you can see it has raised probably by 50%. I'm just going to pull this out, and you can see the dough. So I'm going to grab my scraper separator here, whatever it's called. I am going to lightly coat the dough. Now what you want to do is you want to split it in half. Now what I find when you come down, go a little bit to the left and make sure you go all the way down. That way you're going to cut it all the way through. So now what you have is what I found is that take your dough and roll it in any of the flour that's there. And now what you're going to do is just kind of form it into a ball. And I just go around on the flour, and I'm going to put it right here. And I'm going to do it again with this one. Again, you're taking the sides and rolling it in underneath. That's what it looks like underneath. And put it in your batons and put this over it. If you don't have that, you can use again a dry towel. And there you go. Now I'm going to set it over here. We're going to proof these, which I guess just means letting it sit and rise for about 3 hours. In about 3 hours, we're going to take it out. Now, during this period of time, about a half hour before you're going to cook them, you're going to heat your oven with your Dutch oven. And I'll just kind of go over the Dutch oven real quick. Now, these are just not cast iron, but they're enameled. And this is what I use. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna put these, as you heat up your oven, you're going to put them in, keep them in the oven and get them ready. So when you start to heat it up and the temperature reaches 450 degrees, you can start to put your loaves in there. And we'll go over that in a few minutes.